Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
One evening, an old Indian chief told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside all people. He said, "My son, the battle is between two wolves inside us all. One is evil. It is anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, faults, pride, superiority, and ego. The other is good. It is joy and peace, love and hope and serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, consideration, and faith." Well, the grandson thought about this for a minute and then asked his grandfather, the chief, "Which wolf wins?" And the old Indian chief simply said, "The one you feed." Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. On a Tuesday, March 1st. Why, it seems like only yesterday was February. Good heavens. Good morning. Oh, good morning. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch on a Tuesday, March 1. And our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today, 734-6969. And without further ado, let's get our Pledge of Allegiance person on the phone. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
You must be the Pledge of Allegiance person.
I am.
All right, buddy. Well, go ahead and give it to us, please.
Sounds good. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Atta boy. How you doing this morning, Wheels?
Good. How are you, sir?
Oh, fantastic. You're peachy. Oh, well, that's good. All right. Hey, let's get the weather in here right now. And, of course, the weather is brought to everybody by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Oh, my goodness. You better get out and down to Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Pick out new flooring, tile, wood, carpet. They've got it all for you. And great inventories to choose from at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. They have whatever you need to make your house a home. Absolutely. Let's go to the weather with our weather lady. Hello, Gina.
Happy Tuesday morning time now for your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Scotty Cameron sitting in for Gina Jameson. Well, for today, looks like some sun. Highs are going to be around 56, just a little bit of wind. Then for tonight, 20% chance of showers after 11 o'clock. Going to see a few clouds moving in with a low around 34. Wind starting to pick up. Then for tomorrow, going to be quite breezy. Looking for some sun. Highs around 54. The winds gusting as high as 28 miles an hour. Then for Wednesday night, partly cloudy with a low around 33. Mostly sunny on Thursday, a high near 57. That's your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Have a great day.
Tell you what, that was Gina on steroids. I didn't know that Scotty had done that this morning. Thank you, Scotty. Hey, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Thank you very much. Hey, by the way, don't forget, every Thursday, the sale that works for you, the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley, with our buddies Merv May, Kay Draghi, and Lance Udy. You better believe it. And the number to call the office for consignments and sale information, 678-9411. Every Thursday, starting at about 10 or 10:30, they're going to work for you at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard. Don't forget that. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We've got a lot of things to talk about and a lot of great guests today. We've got Frosty Woldridge coming on, Dan Kish talking about how the global warming alarmists are trying to push their way through Congress and make it all harder on us and our pocketbooks. And then, of course, at 10:06, Dr. History will be here. And then at 10:32, very interesting gentleman, Curtis Ellis, and he's going to be talking about Obama trying to overrun our Constitution. So that should be really interesting. Don't forget about Daryl's Cleaners. I got to run in there this afternoon, as a matter of fact, and pick up a lot of my rumply crumplies. Daryl's Cleaner at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Wonderful people. They've been in the cleaning business for years and years and years, and they are the best. Absolutely. Stop in and see Kevin and Cindy today, and all your rumply crumplies will come back looking brand spanking new. Daryl's Cleaners in Burley. You know, another group of people that absolutely provide great service, and that's SafeLink Internet. And the number to call to get on the program that Deanne and I are on, 677-8000. We are very, very used to their great service, reliable service. And they've got over 10,000 customers now. So why don't you sign up today? Call 677-8000, SafeLink Internet. Absolutely the best. Nice people. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Mild temperatures, March kind of coming in like a lamb. And I still maintain that we're not done with winter yet, and probably towards the end of the month we might be saying, whoa, baby, going out like a lion. But anyway, it's a nice, mild, little cloudy today. You heard the weather forecast just a moment ago. Doesn't sound too shabby, so we really appreciate that. I can't do this program without your calls, and we've got the world's best listeners and callers, so give me a jingle on any subject you want to talk about. In just a moment, we're going to be talking about Hillary Clinton, and I'm going to make a promise and a pledge on the program this morning about her, and we're going to talk about that momentarily, so give me a call. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459. Wonderful people. They've been on this program ever since it started, and they've got all your heating and electrical needs and the people to help you with those projects. Absolutely. You remember they open the doors at 7:30 in the morning till 5, Monday through Friday. And if you need something in a hurry, call ahead. Have it ready on the counter, 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. I had a good friend of mine call the other day and thank me for moving the lunch bunch over to Denny's restaurant. And we've been there, for a year and a half almost? It's been phenomenal. And Thomas and Terry, Terry's such a sweetheart. She made cupcakes the other day for all the lunch bunch. That was so nice for Valentine's Day. And when you go into Denny's, just ask for Terry and tell her I said thank you again. It was just so doggone nice. Well, Denny's restaurant is 611 Overland in Burley, and their other location at 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls. It is America's Diner. It is a great place to eat. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, anytime, all the time. Take my advice. Denny's restaurant, absolutely the best. I'm going to make a little pledge here this morning because I'm very committed to what I think, in my opinion, is absolutely going to be devastating for the American politics scene and also our Constitution for future generations. And that is if Hillary Clinton is elected president of this United States. I firmly believe, and to any Democrat out there, I don't care if you get upset. I don't care if you send me hateful emails. I don't care. It's the least of my worries. Because I believe her campaign will ruin and destroy America. I intend to denounce any and all supporters of her as anti-American, because how could they be anything else? This woman is absolutely devious. I will denounce her as a crook, a liar, a fraud, and those are all honest appraisals of her personality. This is a woman that very possibly, with new information that is coming down the pike, and the FBI is looking at one specific email right now that is so top secret. It is so top secret they won't release any information about it, and it's kind of like playing five-card stud with the ace in the hole. I honestly believe that will be her demise. I honestly believe she will be indicted. And Judge Napolitano was on the television this morning, and he made some statements that are absolutely the truth. The American public, whether you're Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal or independent, the American public deserves to know on an ASAP basis, as soon as possible, now, whether or not she is going to be allowed through legalese terms, etc., as to whether she'll run for the presidency. Because a year from now, it's very possible that woman could be sitting in jail. One can only hope. But with the supposed emails that are really red flags against her, all I can tell you is that I did hear that this latest email possibly was very damning between her and Obama. And the FBI is not releasing and will not release any information because of the top secret nature of that email. But this woman, this raucous, magpie-like voice woman, she said something yesterday that absolutely was very chilling to all of us. She is an advocate of global warming. She is an advocate of stopping all coal. She is an advocate of stopping all fossil fuels as energy. And she made a comment yesterday that I stopped dead in my tracks when I heard this comment. And I thought, oh my goodness. She said that by the end of her second term, every home in America would be on green energy. Think about those words. By the end of her second term, every home in America would be on green energy. At the expense of you and I and our future, our savings and our families, and quite frankly, any possibility of trying to maintain jobs and make an income. This is very scary by the end of her second term. I know a lot of you are saying, wow, that was just a fearless prognostication on her part. No, it was very chilling on her part. Give me a call, please, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, give me a call. I want to hear what your comments are. I want to take just a moment and say thank you very much to Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. It's a hub of activity. It's a hub of getting you to feel better. It's a hub of knowledge on all the exercises, all the sports medicine, the use of the hydrotherapy pool, the only one of its kind in the area, and a great friendly staff that is committed to helping you get back to being you. Now, the number to call for an appointment at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 678-1191, 678-1191. Call them today. Make an appointment. You'll be so glad you did. Come on, folks. Give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting, quickly I'll tell you about my friends at Berry Equipment and Rental. Hello, all three locations. These are really nice folks. I get a kick out of Eli and Nick and Juan and the whole crew. I'll tell you what. They have all the equipment to get the job done, any job done, right. I'm telling you, from the Coyote tractors, they've got them in all the different sizes, and they've got all the Bobcats, they've got all the big Doosan loaders, and again I stress that lawns are going to be growing here before too long, and they've got the best of the Walker lawnmowers. Oh my yes. Buying or renting, they are the best at Berry Equipment and Rental in Addison Avenue West, Twin Falls, South Lincoln, Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Berry Equipment and Rental. Well, good morning, caller. How are you?
Well, good morning, Zeb. I'm doing just fine. And yourself?
I need wheels to turn you up a little bit so I can hear you better. What's going on, my friend?
I was thinking about the debates. I haven't watched any of them. I'll be plain honest with you. But I'm tired of, I don't want to hear the rhetoric. I don't want to hear the backbiting or the, well, you said this or you said that. I would like to hear points on what they plan to do and how to do it. And one point I would really like to be interested in, a question is, what is each candidate going to do to get the government or the public lands back to the state control to where it belongs, to the people of that state, not the federal government?
Yeah. I'm like you too, Riley. I'm sick and tired of all the rhetoric. I'm sick and tired of all the name-calling and the mudslinging. And quite frankly, all I think it's doing is just aiding and abetting the possibility of a Hillary campaign, and I'm fed up with it. I don't want to hear any more from Donald Trump. I don't want to hear any more from Rubio or Cruz, and I absolutely want to hear facts. I want to hear specifics. I want to hear how they're going to absolutely throw the Democrats out of any seat that they have back in Washington. And I'm not hearing that.
You know, personally, I don't want anybody in office that's going to make deals or compromise with the Democratic Party. It's not what I'm interested in as a citizen. I'm interested in getting the job done. I'm interested in getting our state rights back to the state. I'm interested in getting people like Cliven Bundy and Ammon Bundy pardoned, released from prison. Retribution for their cattle that has been slaughtered. I would like to see all that compensated for. The American farmer needs to be held in high regard once again. That's how we were strong.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you gave a very good synopsis right there. And in not next week, but the week after, I'm going to have some different segments on exactly what you're talking about. So thank you very much for your call as always, and hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.
You do the same.
All right, thank you. You know, we've got to get this country back. Trump, whether you like him or not, you got to agree with his main theme and mantra, hoping and helping to get America great again. We are not a great country right now. I don't care what anybody says, and they can say, oh, you're just being negative, Zeb. No. We have got major problems. We are going to be very soon $21 trillion or more in debt. We have nobody in the world that fears us or respects us. We have absolutely a lot of problems, internal problems here at home. We are not the great country that we were once. Hopefully, we can be again. Caller, stay on the line. I've got a quick commercial. I'll be right there. I promise. You're next in line. Thank you very much. Don't forget the 21st annual Problem-Free Cattle Bull Sale. This is going to be a ripping good sale. Sheridan Ranch Bull Sale coming up this Saturday at the Burley Auction Yard in Burley, and it starts at 1 p.m. Don't forget it. Cordell and Patty Sheridan, they raise really good cattle. Up on the rocks, they know how to get around. I'm telling you what, these are good bulls. And the problem-free cattle bull sale with the guest consigners to the Deep Creek Ranch, Dennis and Cindy Tim. It's all going to start this Saturday at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard at 1 p.m. And they've got about 85 bulls to sell, free delivery up to 300 miles. Cordell raises really good cattle. Be sure and not forget to be there. Sheridan Ranch Bull Sale coming up this Saturday. I got a little tongue-tied there. I apologize for that. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, sir, thanks. I just want to comment. Can't remember, Senator Representative of our state Senate from Ketchum mentioned that we just can't afford to get our lands back and join this coalition to try anyway. And this probably is a bad time with Obama still in power, but I think it's a good idea. He's saying, it cost us $800 million to keep those lands going, and that's what the government spends. Well, I would like to educate her from my opinion. $800 million is what the federal government spends. $400 million goes in somebody's pockets there, and then the other $200 million is overpayment for jobs done. I'm sure of that. This is just my opinion, but I'm sure of it. So it wouldn't cost us that much to keep our lands up.
No, and I'll tell you something. The last couple of words you said in that sentence, keep our lands up, is absolutely where I'm coming from. We, the state of Idaho, we've proven that we are better maintenance men and women, if you will, over the lands. If you remember that devastating fire in the 90s, the federal lands burned up like a timber box, but I'll tell you what, everything on state lands was controllable and put out. I am absolutely adamant and in favor of adopting and taking over many, many more percentages of our federal lands within the state of Idaho. And I'm one that's going to stand up along with Speaker of the House Scott Bedke and others in trying to lead the charge to get more of that land back under our control.
And we've got to let the timber takers back in those lands to take that refuse out of there, because that's part of the problem. And if they can take that wood that's infected or that's just dead for other reasons out of there, we would have a good lumber industry, we would have good inexpensive lumber, and we would have our forests back to a stage where we could take care of people.
It goes under one word, sir, and you've absolutely brought up a perfect scenario. It goes back to management. Management creates money for the economy. Management creates jobs. Management stops a lot of the super serious fires that could happen. I mean, it all goes back to management, and quite frankly, I don't trust the feds to manage anything.
You are correct.
Thank you for your call. You're always welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, the naysayers, and there's always going to be naysayers, and quite frankly, they have as much right to an opinion as I do or any of you. But the naysayers, they come out in the Times News, and the Times News, too, will run stories about, we can't take back our federal lands and everything too expensive. Baloney! Better management, better use of our resources than the federal government, by far. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The doctor of audiology, Christine Pickup, I was over there the other day, and I'll tell you what, she just absolutely knows all there is to know about sound and hearing. Absolutely. You might be having a problem with your hearing, and you're saying, well, it's just because I'm getting old. No, age does not create less hearing. It may be a problem with maybe a health condition or possibly some of the medicine that you're taking, whatever. I strongly urge you to call for an appointment today and have a hearing screening. All you have to do is call 312-0957. They're right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Really nice people. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Did you hear, and I want you to listen closely to this morning, did you hear what former Mexican President Vicente Fox did and said yesterday? Now, again, I'm a nitpicker. I listen to the news and I nitpick about certain things and phrases and words that are used in the news because, to me, they are red lights and very scary as to what the person really, really means. I'll talk about that in just a moment. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. 2 points for having our state lands back is the people on the east of the Mississippi, they don't have to do what we have to do. And yet a lot of directives come from the eastern half of the United States. They own all of their land.
That's right. And
I think that we, Idahoans, know a whole lot more about how to take care of our state of Idaho than the U.S. Forest Service.
There's no doubt about it.
If we can get our lands back, we can prosper. But in the meantime, we're paying all of our money out to just save the federal land.
You know, there are those, Chris, and you've heard this. Well, if you take the lands back, why, you'll sell it, you'll ruin it, you'll open it up for agriculture and mining and everything else. Wait a minute. Maybe in certain instances that might be the best use of that particular tract of land to help restore our economy and bring back jobs. We've got to look at this as God's gift, assets that are here that need to be used and not just buried up by the federal government.
Yeah, and I think that the next time you have a visit with our governor, if you can get him on the phone in the near future, how much is it costing us Idahoans to have all of these new folks that are being poured into our state, and they're filling up our colleges and all, the ones from the Middle East? I think that we are taking such a risk. Let's ask our governor.
Well, I can answer a little bit of that myself. And I'll tell you what, you know this lady because you've seen her on television many, many times. And she is an outspoken critic of what's going on or not happening here in America to make America stronger. And I'm talking about a lovely lady by the name of Brigitte Gabriel. I know you know who I'm talking about. And I was in touch with her office yesterday, and we're reestablishing a time for her to come on the program. I can't get it in this week, and I'm shooting for next week. And she's going to be talking specifically about the refugees coming in from the Muslim nations in the Middle East and the cost factor to you and I.
Yeah, and I understand we have 200 new residents in the Twin Falls County.
Yeah.
That most of us didn't even know they moved in.
And there's going to be more.
And we've got to stop it. We can't get rid of them once they're here. We've got to stop them.
Well, I tell you what, I am so sick and tired of trying to cry out and say that we've got to stop this for not only security reasons, but you brought it up at the beginning of your conversation when you said the cost factor. Anybody that doesn't realize that we, the United States taxpayers, are on the hook for this is absolutely wearing blinders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think we need to get our governor on the phone and let him hear how some of the people in this state feel directly.
All right. I'll make it a point to call up to his office and talk to John Hanyon this afternoon. We'll get it set up, Chris, and I do appreciate your call. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you. Thanks. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I have a file here on this desk. Of course, now a lot of you might chuckle and say, yeah, but your desk, holy smokes, look at it. That is probably about 5 to almost 6 inches thick of all the material on the refugees coming into this country and the cost factors and everything else, and all the left calling us hate mongers and bigots and all the absolute garbage that is being slung in some respects from both sides. But the truth is, the change of our culture, the bringing in of these people that is absolutely going to be a cost factor against all the taxpayers and a fear factor is something that needs to be considered and dealt with. And I'm going to keep on fighting it. Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair at 635 21st Street, Al Fresco Road in Heyburn. Good morning, Dougie. And he bought the business back in 2009. It used to be called Ted's Diesel Electric Service. Now it's Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair. Great service. And Doug can rebuild starters, alternators, and generators, and also sells brand new. Call him. Stop in, 878-4991. Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair. Oh, yes, and by the way, I got to tell you this real quick, and then we'll take some more calls. Quick, give me a call, 436-2244. Yesterday, we were in Twin Falls. I had to do some errands, and we stopped by Urgent Care of Twin Falls for the grand opening of Kyle and his new business to go along with the Burley and Jerome locations, Urgent Care of Twin Falls. This is one of the absolute nicest people you'll ever meet in your life, Kyle James. And the new location of Urgent Care of Twin Falls, 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin, right by Kmart and Harley-Davidson. You can't miss it. And the number to call, 933-4440. You bet. Walk-ins, no appointments necessary, quicker, less expensive, a better option for minor emergencies with major care. Urgent Care of Twin Falls. You stop in and see them today. Okay? All right, give me a call. Now, here is the story I want to tell you about former Mexican President Vicente Fox. Now, if you didn't hear about this, listen up, because I'm going to be paraphrasing, and then I have a direct comment quote. Vicente Fox was asked about Donald Trump and his presidential bid, and Vicente Fox cursed, very profanely, in English, and was absolutely adamant that if there was going to be any wall built, it would not be built by Donald Trump, and it would not be paid for by the Mexican government. But there was something very chilling in what Vicente Fox said. This disgusting man then said that his people coming here illegally deserve the opportunity. Think about that. Vicente Fox, former Mexican president, made a comment in his diatribe yesterday that his people coming here, Mexicans coming here illegally, deserve the opportunity. And that's what stopped me in my tracks. And I sat back down in my geezer chair and started taking notes. His people deserve to come here? They deserve the opportunity? Oh, really? And not one single person in the media yesterday picked up on those words. Nobody. Nada. Nobody said anything. But yet here is a former Mexican president saying his people in Mexico deserve to come here on our dime for the opportunity. It's very chilling and very telling. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Another thing that really bothered me last night is that they had the Waters World on O'Reilly, and he was asking people questions about the border and about the fence and everything. And you could tell by and I'm going to be very blunt, the class of people and the way they were dressed and their demeanor, etc., that, hey, man, I don't care if they build a wall. And then this one girl gets on, and she's probably at the most 20 years of age. Well, I don't think there should be borders. I think people should go all over the world, wherever they want. You know, it's the unknowledgeable and the misinformed and, quite frankly, the stupids that don't understand and respect the reason of borders, constitutions, and countries. And then the ones that, quite frankly, looked like they were intelligent, acted like they were intelligent, absolutely came out and said they were in favor of a wall and tightening the screws, if you will, on our very open borders. It just drives me nuts. You can't have a country if you don't have borders. You can't have a country if you don't have security. And these nincompoops that say, well, everybody should be able to go everywhere. Well, when they come here, they're on our dime. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd sure appreciate hearing from you. Oh, by the way, in case you have not heard, And by the way, today is a big day in the primaries. Today is what they call Super Tuesday in 13 states. Now, let's just kind of look at this thing a little bit as far as Ted Cruz is concerned. I believe that if Ted Cruz does not win his big home state of Texas, he is a memory. He's gone. Adios, Ted, if he doesn't defeat Donald Trump today in Texas. Now, you realize, of course, that the Florida primary is coming up on March 15th. And that will be the telling tale for Marco Rubio. So we'll have to wait and see really what's going to happen today. Big Super Tuesday. A lot of people are making predictions that Trump is going to steamroll over all of the states in the primaries, including Texas. I'm not so sure. And like I said, if they wait until March 15th in Florida and Rubio is still hanging his hat up on the wall, we'll see what happens then. All right, give me a call. Come on, everybody call 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We got a new sponsor for our weather this morning, and the weather sponsor is a man that really, and his crew, I want to thank all of them, really do a wonderful job with sprinkler systems, fixing up old ones, putting in new ones. A couple of years ago, they put in a wonderful sprinkler system for us over here so I could water my arena and everything. Man, they do a great job. And by the way, they can make sure they prune all your trees, fruit trees, ornamental trees, shade trees, everything. And that's Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 336 South, 450 West of Paul. Number to call, 438-2485. Caller, I'll be right with you after Scott gives us the weather.
Happy Tuesday morning time now for your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Scotty Cameron sitting in for Gina Jameson. Well, for today, looks like some sun. Highs are going to be around 56, just a little bit of wind. Then for tonight, 20% chance of showers after 11 o'clock. Going to see a few clouds moving in with a low around 34. Wind starting to pick up. Then for tomorrow, going to be quite breezy. Looking for some sun. Highs around 54. The winds gusting as high as 28 miles an hour. Then for Wednesday night, partly cloudy with a low around 33. Mostly sunny on Thursday, a high near 57. That's your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast.
Hey,
great day.
Thank you, Scott. Brought to everybody by Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. A good old boy. Call him at 438-2485 or 431-8733. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Are they backing up?
I believe they did.
You know, I hope callers can have just a little bit of patience with me. I mean, it wasn't more than 45 seconds, so come on, call back at 436-2244 and just bear with me a little bit. There's certain things that have to be done, but we'd love to hear from you, so give us a call. Come on, I want to hear what you have to say. Another quick story that I want to get in while I wait for your call that I know is coming in. I know you're going to call back. And call all your family members, your relatives, your friends in any and all states, and tell them to be organized. Tell them to be ready to say no, emphatically no, to the President of the United States, Barack Obama, and his scheme. His under-the-table scheme to bring the Gitmo detainees, these killers, to a prison near them. You know, I talked to some people in Colorado that are they're incensed. They are really teed off. We're going to be talking to Frosty Woolridge here in about, another 25, 30 minutes. And most everybody I've talked to, I called people in South Carolina, I talked to people in Kansas. Oh, wow. Some of the folks I talked to in Kansas about Obama wanting to bring the Gitmo detainees, some of them into their prisons. Barack, baby, I would think twice. And I absolutely am against this, and I think we need to make a real point of staging very, very loud and boisterous rallies to tell the federal government and Obama, no. These vermin, these subhumans, deserve a place like Gitmo. Actually, they don't deserve a place like Gitmo because it's absolutely too nice for them with all the different amenities. But what they do deserve for incarceration, because we are at war, my friends, they do deserve a place like Gitmo that's out in the desert and surrounded by sharks in the ocean. Gee, I'd love to see them try to escape in that water. Chomp, chomp. Oh, there's Jaws. But to bring them here to the United States and sprinkle them at various locations around our United States, to me, is absolutely inviting more problems, more terrorist activity, and just severe trouble and traumatic experiences. I don't understand what this president is doing. He's defying the law, and he's going to go around Congress, and he's going to try to do it anyway. This is a man that is defying our Constitution. And right now, he's still getting away with it. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, I want to hear from you. Oh, another quick note here this morning. There was a letter to the editor of the Times News this morning, and I want to say thank you to this lady, and I certainly hope that she can hear me and know that I'm saying thanks. A letter written by Kathy McKenzie of Hagerman. It was a just right on point letter about the Don't Fail Idaho campaign that's on television. Now, I got to tell you that Deanne and Deanne's out in the other room, and she'll come in here and she can even get on the microphone. We have talked about those ads. Very negative ads against our students in the state of Idaho. We have commented many, many times about the negative paint all Idaho youth into a corner, stupid ads about education. I think they're very negative and they're just absolutely worthless. And I want to comment that Kathy McKenzie pointed this out in her letter, and it was extremely well written. Our kids go nowhere if we fail to show them all the roads to success, not just college. And I'm adamant that it's not just a simple answer with a 7-letter word, college. Now, I'll be more than happy to go toe-to-toe, nose-to-nose with anybody on this that disagrees. Not all students are college students. Not all students want to go to college. Many want to go take trade schools. Many have their hearts set maybe to do another field of endeavor. But to run them down and say that they are basically failing, like that commercial leaving them off out in the middle of the desert with the bus and driving away, I find that repulsive. And the negative ads are not going to do anything but create more negativity. We've got great kids going through our school systems right here in the state of Idaho. But I reiterate, they are not all college students. And to lump everybody together and say they've got to have this, they've got to have that, they've got to have the high SAT scores, etc. Oh my goodness, if they don't, they're failures. That is completely a misnomer. And boy, I tell you what, they ought to be buggy whipped for doing that. We've got some great kids, and we've got some great teachers, and we do not have to, in all cases, look at colleges and universities for success. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm going to talk to you just a few minutes, if I may, or a minute, about our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. My goodness, they've got some really neat tires, like road control passenger car tire. Listen to this, and it starts at just $88. Specially designed grooves and new 3D siping that reduces hydroplaning in wet conditions. Reduced weight improves rolling distance for better fuel efficiency. Hey. Quiet ride and all-weather confidence. You you better check out these new tires at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You know, they've got 7 locations serving you with absolutely the best in tires, absolutely the best in brake service, I know firsthand, absolutely the best in front-end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries, but above all, the best in service. They really take care of you. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy, my old buddy, on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Stop in, see them today. All right, your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, let me have a call from you. By the way, a gentleman that used to be, I think he was with KTVB Television out of Boise, Dale Dixon. I think he was the newsman up there years ago. Well, now he works for the Better Business Bureau. And he runs a column in the newspaper, and this morning's column was really interesting and very well stated about finding a trustworthy tax preparer. And it's very true. You need to really analyze who you're going to have your taxes prepared by. And he gave some quick notes that I think I'll give you real quick in case, which is only about, 6 weeks away, tax day. Ask for referrals. You know, go to your friends, your family, and even your business colleagues and ask them who they have prepare their taxes and get kind of a general synopsis. And then check the credentials of the people that have been referred to you to make sure that they are qualified. And be very, very wary of promises. You know, somebody might say, well, I can get you back a whole big refund. Well, make sure and be wary of promises. And then check the accessibility. What does he mean by that? He said, will the tax preparer be available to answer questions year-round? You want somebody that you can work with. You want somebody that you can call. You want somebody that will maybe call you. Make sure that they're accessible. And then determine the cost. And what he means by that is, does the preparation fee include later changes to your return? Make sure you know how much you're getting into. In other words, check the puddle of water before you jump into it. And then review the return before signing it. Review your tax return and ask any questions before returning the tax form. Never sign a blank return. And then remember, he ends the story with one other tip for all of us. If your tax preparer makes a mistake, it's still your responsibility. So that information coming out to you 6 weeks before you have evil April 15th for our taxes. Okay, make sure you check that out. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle on the landline, and we'll talk about any subject that you want to talk about. One other quick story. I don't know if I've got time enough to do this or not, but I'm going to take the time real quick. The Bible was removed from a POW MIA display inside of a VA clinic. I couldn't believe this when I heard this story. A Bible and a Bible verse were removed from a POW MIA display inside an Ohio Veterans Administration clinic after the notorious Military Religious Freedom Foundation, headed up by this jerk, Mickey Weinstein. Mickey Weinstein made a complaint about this Bible and Bible verse, and the person, the administrator of this Ohio Veterans Administration clinic, became a coward and took it off the table. I'm going to tell you something, folks. I've been involved with my dear friend George Mass and the POW MIA display, and of course that table where they go through our POWs and MIAs. And I told George, and George and I agree. There's not going to be a Mickey Weinstein or anybody else tell us that we have to take that Bible away. We're not going to do it. We're going to leave it there. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Elvis. many POWs made it through what they had to go through because they had a Bible in their back. Not physically on them, but in their head.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will not be dictated to by a Mickey Weinstein. I will not be dictated to by anybody. And I got to tell you something, lady, real quick, and I want your response on this. I have been highly criticized by some of the secularists in this area when I say to you and other people when they call in at the end of the call, God bless, have a good day. They are very offended by that. But you know what my response is? It ain't going to change.
Yeah. Holy cow. Religious freedom was the thing that the original founders, the original pilgrims, the pilgrims, came over here for. It was because, all of my ancestors came over here because of religious freedom. Every single one of them. From England, the British Isles, from Switzerland, from Sweden, from Denmark, every single one of them came because of religious freedom.
Well, whether it's...
They didn't want to belong to the Church of the King of England or the Queen of Sweden or whatever. And so, come on, people in Washington, or you way out, far left liberals, get your heads out of you-know-where and figure out that the separation of church and state does not mean that we cannot have the Bible.
Amen. And I'll tell you what, it was the Lord's Prayer and also the 23rd Psalm and many other verses that kept a lot of our POWs going and remaining strong. I've got to run to the news, but God bless you for your call. See, I said it again, and I'll keep on saying it. All right, take care. Thank you very much. We're going to take a little break, run to the news from CBS, and be back with Frosty in just about 6 minutes. Don't go away. Oh my, here we go. Hour number 2 on a Tuesday, March 1. Yep, don't forget, change it on your checks. You're going to be a day behind if you don't. Anyway, March 1st, and I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. Really, really nice people. Along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and the free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. And don't forget, it's time to think about it, the spring cleaning, whether it's your basement, whether it's your garage, whether it's like my office. What a mess. Anyway, they've got the dumpsters in all the various sizes. Call them today, get a dumpster, and start cleaning. 734-6969. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. You call them today. By the way, some other really nice folks that they've been with us for a long time. God bless them. They are wonderful people to work with, and that's Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with Joel Heward, his family, his staff, serving you. And when I use the word serving, I'm really being honest there, because they absolutely go out of their way to make sure that they help you in a very traumatic time when there's the passing of a loved one. Always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Please give them a call and find out more. 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, located at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Really nice people. Let's go to the phone line right now, because it is Tuesday and my buddy's on the other end of this phone line, and I want to say good morning to Frosty Woolridge in Colorado. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, Zeb Bell. It's always a pleasure.
Well, I'm going to start some things off this morning on our conversation. First of all, I want to talk a little politics, and I'm going to kind of shotgun things to you this morning in various segments. So here we go. Today is Super Tuesday, and I've made the prediction in the first hour already. I think that the Trump train is rolling downhill on the tracks, and I don't think anybody, Rubio or Cruz, is going to stop him. What are your thoughts?
Complete agreement. The Trump train is literally flying, not even on the tracks anymore. It's just sailing into history, and it's pretty exciting. For me, a middle American who's worked very hard all my life and watched the failure of Congress for the last 30 years, watched the failure of the last 5 presidents to secure our borders, this man has changed the entire dynamic of the good old boy network, where both Democrats and Republicans keep getting elected, whether it's a Harry Reid or a Charles Schumer or a Dianne Feinstein or a Barbara Boxer, and you can just, John McCain. These are all career corrupt politicians who have literally made their bed and their lives literally doing nothing for the American people. They're in Washington, D.C. You see it in the stats that you and I have covered for the last 12, 13 years now. And so the American people are really fed up. And they want somebody who's going to, and has proven to be a success. And even with his failures, he's come out a success. He gets things done. And so Donald Trump really is an exciting historical character. And I personally would like to see him in the White House. And whether you like him or you don't like him, he's a man who gets things done, and he gets them done for Americans. And I am excited about the possibilities of Donald Trump being the new president of the United States.
On the other side of the coin, though, Frosty, and we don't very often on this segment with you talk about Hillary Clinton, but I think here is a scenario that it's astounding to me that a woman that has been a liar, a cheat, a fraud, and quite frankly, a crook, and now with some of the emails that even the FBI is not releasing because of the very, very top secret nature, she may even be treasonous against the United States. Here is a woman that's running for president that may be indicted, and a year from today may be sitting in a 16-by-8 jail cell. I mean, what kind of a country would think about putting someone like her as president?
That is one of the questions that truly history is going to answer, because this lady has been dishonest from her days in the Arkansas White House when her husband was the governor. And I read the Jennifer Flowers book. She described in detail how the Arkansas State Patrol was driving this unbelievable guy named Bill Clinton off to have affairs several times a week. And the wife knew it, and that's Hillary Clinton. And then when the really big bombshell hit there in the White House when he was having an affair with Monica Lewinsky, and of course there are literally several dozen women who've come forward, and all of this has been covered up, and this woman named Hillary Clinton has literally lived a double life, one of lies and one of facade. And we now know that she really lied about Benghazi and her incompetence with that. And then when she said those famous words, "What does it matter?" The American people are pretty sick and pretty fed up with this kind of leadership. And they're really fed up with Barack Obama, who has given no leadership for the last 7 years, and he's just coasting into the end of his term here for the rest of the next 10 months, thank goodness. But it's amazing how, again, it's called cognitive dissonance. These liberals, these Democrats, these people out here that are just in complete intellectual denial of what literally Hillary Clinton has stood for all of her life. I mean, she was fired way back in the 70s for being a lying and cheating person on a government staff indictment, and that's been shown on Facebook many, many times. It's completely documented, and yet there's people that want to put her in the White House, but in fact, she very well could be put into jail.
You know, Frosty, we're going to go into another segment right now that I know is going to raise the hair on the back of your neck, and you're going to get really upset like I am over what happened yesterday. But I don't know if you've had the chance or not to hear the remarks of former Mexican President Vicente Fox when he literally cursed, it had to be bleeped out, against Donald Trump and against the proposed wall that Trump said the Mexicans will build and pay for. Now, that was interesting enough, but in the course of his diatribe, Vicente Fox said the following words, and I picked up on it, and I wanted to ask you about it this morning. Vicente Fox said, and I'm quoting, his people coming here illegally deserve the opportunity. When I heard those words, deserve the opportunity, I went through the roof. What are your thoughts?
Well, let me also really bring this into perspective, because everyone listening across the country right now understands that Mexico is part of the greatest cash transfer, in other words, bleeding our country out of financial viability. Every year, illegal aliens and legal immigrants send $80 billion, that's B as in boy, $1 billion a year in cash transfers to all these other countries, Central and South America, Mexico, Asia, you name it. And it comes out to be $80 billion, but $24 billion of that goes into Mexico every year, and that $24 billion is their second largest financial income. It's a largesse. All these poor people that they won't even bring. The average Mexican works for $5 a day. You can look that up, $5 a day. And so they are in such poverty that over 12 and probably as high as 15 million of them now reside in the United States. We know that well over 10 million of them are working and displacing American citizens. So you better believe that Vicente Fox doesn't want to have any of that $24 billion tampered with. And I guarantee you Donald Trump is going to definitely change that dynamic, and that would make Mexico responsible for its own citizens and start doing something for Mexican citizens to live viable lives with a viable and decent wage. And so that's part of his nastiness. But also notice that China right now is now pushing against Trump because China has been riding the gravy train of free trade. If anybody looked this up lately, we bought $689 billion worth of goods from China last year in 2015. We only sold them $169 billion in goods. In other words, free trade is unfair trade, and a man like Donald Trump is going to stop it by reworking the trade laws to make sure that it's fair trade instead of free trade, so that we bring jobs back to America. And that has not happened with Hillary Clinton and won't. It won't happen with a Bernie Sanders. It certainly won't happen with a Cruz or a Rubio. And so that's what's going on. Donald Trump is shaking up the entire political landscape because he's coming with the facts, he's coming with the truth, and he's coming with a proven record that he gets things done.
Absolutely. We've got a caller with a question and a comment. Go ahead, caller. Quickly, you're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb and Frosty.
Pleasure.
I've been hearing that Dearborn, Michigan, the Muslims have voted themselves into power and are now implementing Sharia law. I told that to somebody, and they said, oh, that's just totally ridiculous. You can't be. Would you clarify that situation and the danger that comes to our local communities when they don't need a big percentage, but they all go out and vote? The rest of us are watching TV and being entertained, I guess.
You know, that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up, Adrian, and I'm going to have Frosty comment on it, and then I will also. Thank you very much. Frosty, you and I, and you more than I, know about the situation in Michigan. You used to live back in the state of Michigan, and there are real solid fears as to what's happening with the Muslim infiltration of that area. Go ahead and explain that to us.
Well, as a matter of fact, I did spend time in Michigan last fall, and Detroit, Michigan is now a Muslim caliphate. And de facto Islamic Sharia law is now in place. There are something on the order of 400,000 Muslims there in Detroit, Michigan, and surrounding areas like Hamtramck. And you all know that I used to work there. I worked there from 1977 through 1991. I'm one of the truckers that literally loaded up all of the people who fled Detroit, over 1 million of them. And now Detroit went from 1.85 million down to around 648,000. Detroit is an unsafe city for American citizens, especially European American citizens, and that's a fact. And of course, you all have read my Tragedy of Detroit, which was on Snopes, and it's been it's gone all over the internet. In 2009, I wrote that, and I told that story from a truck driver's point of view as a moving van and a United Van Lines driver. And the fact is right now that the Muslims, as they gather their strength, they've now taken over the Hamtramck area as far as the city council, and they are now instituting Sharia law. You can sit there and deny it, whether you want to call it de facto Sharia law, but Muslims are using the U.S. Constitution and our ability to vote whatever we want to vote into our communities because they are now the majority. And you better believe that Sharia law, we now have honor killings in this country. Look it up on the internet. We also have over 500,000 female genital mutilation cases in America, all in the Muslim community, which is one of the most barbaric, god-awful. It's a butchering of women, little girls. You have arranged marriages. You have, of course, you're going to see more San Bernardinos as they plan more of those. So, yes, Detroit, Michigan, and also there's de facto Sharia law in Minneapolis, Minnesota right now, where there's 100,000 Somalian Muslims. They are starting to take over, and they will continue to march, and they're going to disrupt America's constitutional republic, and you're going to see more riots, you're going to see more violence, and you're going to see more Sharia law being implemented as these Muslims come into their own.
All right, we've got another caller. We've got another caller on the air, Frosty. For you, go ahead, caller, quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Frosty, my question is about how do you think Donald Trump views giving back federal lands to the states and under state control for the people of the state to manage on their own? And I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
All right, Frosty, go ahead, please.
That one's out of my arena, and I haven't really studied. Go to his website, DonaldTrumpForPresident.com, I think it is, but you can pick it up pretty easily. And he probably has a statement on that, but if not, he will have to make a statement. But I know one thing, the federal government is starting to really take over so much territory and displace our states and gather more of the land from us and take control of it. But I don't have enough expertise in that area to really answer that, and so I'm just going to have to bow out of that answer.
I want to go back just for a few minutes that are left here and talk to you about these Muslim refugees, and there is a misnomer out there, thanks to the Obama administration. We were told 10,000 might come in, but what we were never told, and it was issued in secret, were green cards to 600,000 coming in from the Middle East. And you know something, Frosty? I am sick and tired of our local newspaper, the Times News, our local college, the College of Southern Idaho, and of course also the city of Twin Falls and some of the so-called leaders in that area denouncing you, me, and others as hate mongers and bigots because we don't want to have the erosion of the American culture at our expense.
Well, I would say to the publishers and the editors of those newspapers, and just like I said, and I do say to the Denver Post, run by Dean Singleton and Vince Carroll, you can cover up all of the ramifications of Muslims coming into a community and the honor killings and the female genital mutilation, the arranged marriages, and the subjugation of the women, the loss of women's rights, the loss of anybody's opinion. But the fact is that those newspaper publishers and those editors, and I will guarantee you this if you're listening, and I hope you are, You haven't even seen what's happened to Europe right now. You haven't seen the destruction of multiculturalism, but you will be reporting it. As the numbers of these incompatible Muslim immigrants come into Twin Falls and Boise and all the other places, it's a fact that you will be reporting all of the nasty ramifications, just like Europe is facing right now, and they won't go away. And then what are you going to call all of us? I am literally an American citizen journalist. And as an American citizen journalist, no editor can stop me because I can report the truth as I experience it, and everybody knows I tell the truth. I tell you what's going on. I don't put icing on the cake. I just flat tell it like it is. And that's what's not happening to the journalists in those different newspapers, because it's literally, again, just covering up what's really going on. It's going on in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's certainly going on in Detroit. The truth is being completely camouflaged in Chicago and even in Los Angeles. Again, this is an invasion of our country, and I'm going to stand up for American culture, for the English language that is the most cohesive aspect of our civilization, and I'm literally going to continue to try to raise a voice to stop mass immigration. We don't need another immigrant in this country. We can't even afford what we've got. And so you want to just call that intellectual, critical thinking and action on my part, because I don't have time for hate. I don't have time for bigotry. I don't have time for racism. I have time for my country and standing up for the American Constitution, and that's why I say what I say and I do what I do, and I will continue to do that.
I absolutely will stand with you on this subject, because I think that liberals and cities and newspapers and colleges are being duped by one 5-letter word, and that's money. Because there are stipends that are being paid to the various communities, the colleges, etc., for running the refugee programs, etc. It all comes down to money. And you know something? I'm not ready to sell the American culture for a dollar bill.
I agree with you 100%. This has nothing to do with angry, bigoted, racist, hate mongers and all that stuff. You can throw names at me, but I have integrity as an American citizen, and I have every right to stand up and speak up for my country and for all 50 states. I'm a part of all 50 states, and I tell you what, if you go to Detroit, Michigan right now, you would be shocked, because there are mosques everywhere. Women are second citizens. They go in separate entrances to these mosques. They're treated like cows, like chattel. The Muslims are the most misogynistic religion and the most violent religion on earth. I'll stand by that, because it's proven every day by what they do to other human beings and animals, and what they do to Western countries when they start infiltrating. And I'm going to stand with you, and by gosh, nobody's going to shut me up, because I'm an American citizen, and I'm going to stand right there with George Washington and Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and all the brave souls who've served this country for the last 238 years. So get used to it, folks, because I will stand for America, and I'll stand for you, and I'll stand for our communities, and I'll stand for our culture. We have got to stop mass immigration into this country, or we're not going to have a country left.
Amen. Amen. You know, Frosty, there's so many things I wanted to bring out this morning, and 22 minutes is not enough time. I will take one short call, one short comment, and I've got to wrap it up. I'm only down to the last minute. Good morning, caller. Quickly, you're on the air.
Yeah, watch that. He called me Malala last night, and every time that guy that came in and took over that city was on the loudspeaker, I said, Hitler, all over again. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll have Frosty respond on the air. Go ahead, please, Frosty.
Well, notice on the Academy Awards last night, and this is very short, the one lady who did the documentary that she got an Academy Award for honor killings. That should wake up a lot of people.
Amen.
10,000 women, Muslim women, who are killed by their husbands or brothers or uncles every year in the Muslim countries around the world because of honor killings. And she's hoping now that Pakistan will make a new law against it. If anybody doesn't think that that is the most horrific, barbaric, dark ages, God-forsaken religion to absolutely have 10,000 honor killings. Look it up on the UN honor killings report. And that's what we've got in our country right now. And the more these Muslims come here, they will have more and more honor killings, and we're going to have more and more, those, again, Twin Falls and Boise and all those newspapers that are covering all this stuff up. They're not going to be covering up too many honor killings and all the different riots that are going to be going on and all the other kinds of situations that are coming in with these Muslim people. So that's what we're facing right now, and God help us. God help us.
Amen, and that's the best way to say it. God help us. Frosty Woolridge, my dear friend back in Golden, Colorado, thank you. Have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Thank you, Zeb. Godspeed, my friend.
All right, take care. My friend, Frosty Woolridge in Colorado. By the way, don't forget Let's Ride. I am headed over there this afternoon. Yep, going to go to Let's Ride. Got to take my four-wheelers over and have them all serviced and ready to roll for the summer. You better believe it. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. It's time to get your ATVs, dirt bikes, boats, everything serviced and ready to go for the spring and summer. Don't wait. Don't put it off. Come on. Do it now, today. Call them at 436-4771. Let's Ride. And they've got a great big showroom of all the ATVs ready for you for this year. Where the fun is sold, Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. By the way, don't forget to Cameron and Siemens Insurance while you're over in that neck of the woods. Absolutely. Highway 24 in Rupert. Life insurance, don't put it off. Health insurance, don't put it off. Retirement planning, employee benefits. Find out all that you need to know for the proper coverage. Yes, sir, they are the professionals. Always accessible, always devoted to serving you and your needs. So please call for an appointment today. 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Really nice people. Well, in just a moment, we're going to have a good old friend of mine on the air, and that's Dan Kish. And boy, I tell you, there's a subject this morning that I can't wait to have him talk about, and that's global warming with Tom Stiers and the multimillionaires that are trying to run your life and mine. We'll have him on in just a moment. Stand by, Dan. Don't forget Urgent Care of Twin Falls. Yesterday, they celebrated their grand opening at 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin Falls, right there by Kmart and by Harley-Davidson. Oh, my! And we stopped in and saw Kyle for a few moments, Kyle James, the owner, and I'll tell you what, he was all smiles. Absolutely, they're serving you with the best. Walk-ins, no appointments necessary, quicker care, less expensive, better options for minor emergencies with major care. Urgent Care of Twin Falls. They already have locations in Burley and Jerome, and now this just adds more icing to the cake and taking care of you. Urgent Care of Twin Falls, 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin. Well, a old friend. I mean, this man has been on my program, I think, more than any of my regular guests, if you will, and it's always a pleasure to have him on the program. I didn't have time to read all about the article that we're going to talk this morning because I got it in while I was on the air, but I'm going to say a good morning to Mr. Dan Kish. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm fine, and I hope you are as well.
I am, and there is nobody that I trust more than you to give us energy updates as to what's happening with the liberal loons like Steyer and Hillary Clinton and others that would like and rather have us just all bundled up living in a cave burning buffalo dung, because that's, I think, where we're headed. What's going on with the multimillionaire billionaire Tom Stiers? What's he trying to do now?
Yeah, well, Zeb, as you know, I mean, there seems to be two Americas at this point. You've got average people in this country who are trying to make a living and basically think that cheaper gas prices are good and cheaper electricity prices are good, and they enable them to do more things. And that's typically been the American way. And then we got this whole new crop of people, and the president's included in that. He's the one that said electricity prices should skyrocket. But Tom Steyer, Al Gore's in there. They're all millionaires and billionaires who are pushing the government to make our energy more expensive so that the investments they have in other types of energy become the ones that we're all forced to use. And so, every time there's a debate on TV, there's a group called Next Gen Climate that is paid for. It's Tom Steyer's group. You don't know what it is. It doesn't say Tom Steyer on it. That runs commercials about windmills and solar panels and how we should, all be worried about global warming. And the American people are buying it. They're like they're buying a lot of stuff this year. They're just saying enough is enough. And so he continues to spend money hand over fist. And honestly, if politicians are dumb enough to go along with that stuff, they should be voted out. You can't vote out Tom Steyer. He's just a businessman who's trying to get richer than he already is by doing a public relations campaign on the American public. But at the end of the day, anything that makes life harder for Americans, anything that makes our energy costs go up, anything that makes us less able to compete in the world is not a good thing for America. So that's kind of the state of play.
Well, let me ask you this, and maybe I'm being too nitpicky here, because when I read things and read certain words and phrases, I really become, like I said last hour, a nitpicker, because I think sometimes the proof is in some of the words and phrases that people use. In the story that was sent to me this morning about you being on the air with me, Mrs. Hillary Clinton was asked if she would support banning the extraction of natural gas, oil, and coal on public lands, and she made the following statement: "Yeah, that's a done deal." Well, when you say a done deal, it already acts like it's in the affirmative and that it's taken place. What's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, Dan?
Yeah, well, the president last month announced that they were going to suspend all coal leasing on government lands, and the government has a huge amount of coal, particularly out west, Wyoming, Montana, Utah, and they said they're going to suspend it. The Department of Interior, no more coal leasing for 3 years while they study what its impact is on global warming. If they're worried about carbon dioxide from coal, that means they've also got to be worried about carbon dioxide from oil and gas. And so on federal lands, in public land states where the government owns a lot of the land, if they say no more oil and gas down the road, I mean, Zeb, tourism brings a lot of, it takes a lot of carbon dioxide to fly Japanese tourists over here to visit our national parks. You can make the same argument about that. So, and it's not just Hillary. It's Bernie Sanders has said that he's introduced a bill in the Senate with 6 of his colleagues to basically stop all uses of public lands, which are predominantly in the West, as you well know, for oil, gas, or coal extraction. And, we can guess about what's next, but that's where they're starting. And this is a mainstream in this town in Washington, D.C., with the politicians in the green groups, the green left, that are driving this whole agenda. This has become common approach that they want to take towards this stuff. And I don't think the American public even know it. But there's no way better to make us poorer faster than to basically say that we can't use our natural resources in this country. They're starting with government lands, and then they'll reach out, just like they've been trying to reach out with the Waters of the United States rule, the WOTUS rule, on private farmlands and ranch lands, where the government says it controls every last mud puddle in the back 40.
Yeah. Now, there was something else that came up in regards to Bernie Sanders, and he said that, I'm paraphrasing now, that when he's president, he's going to really adhere to the keep it in the ground proposals. Now, those words, keep it in the ground, those phrases have been taken up on college campuses and universities across the country, and these dim-witted, snot-nosed kids have picked up on it, and they're all having certain rallies with their teachers, their left-wing teachers, condemning the use of energy. My goodness, how do you combat something like this when it's being taught in the schools to kids that really are unaware of what's going on in the real world?
Yep. Well, honestly, Zeb, it all starts at home, and a lot of people have been remiss about this. The left, this all started with the 60s, where they decided the best way to do this, we can't win fighting people. What we'll do instead is try to take over the schools and the school boards and the universities and the rest. And so used to be, you always had a few sort of leftist Marxists. Now they've taken over teaching the teachers at the teacher schools. And even though, you may know some teachers who seem like their heads are screwed on right, the ones who take this up, basically, and the government controls our schools, right? We got government-run schools. They call them public schools, but it's government-run schools. If that's what they tell them to teach, then that's what they're going to teach. And they give bonuses for this sort of thing, and sometimes it's funded by the EPA. It's nothing but propaganda. And, and you see it in the growth of a lot of the craziness that we all shake our heads at now that's going on in the schools and the campuses and all the rest. If we're going to fight for our own kids and our grandkids, when it's close to home, you're going to find out that down the road, you've got a whole armies of people whose heads have been filled with absolute nonsense, and that's kind of what we're getting.
Do you anticipate, Dan, that we're going to be seeing and hearing a lot more of the Tom Steyer's types in the next, let's say by July or August, leading up to the election, and they're going to be coming out of the woodwork, they're going to be coming out on college campuses, they're going to be coming out in high schools, they're going to be preaching and teaching to our younger generation that anything and everything to do with energy and strong energy programs is bad? Is it going to get a lot worse before the election in November?
Oh, you bet, Zeb. Great question. Listen, on all of this stuff, and it's not just energy, but I mean energy will be front and center because there's so much money at stake here, because these rich guys, Tom Steyer is a billionaire who got to be a billionaire by developing coal mines in Indonesia and Australia to feed the Chinese market. China now consumes over half the coal in the world. And so even though the United States has these huge coal reserves, the government says we can't develop them, and we're going to shut down our coal plants. Meanwhile, this guy got to be a billionaire by making the Chinese have as much electricity as they want using coal. So now he comes back here and says, well, now I want to work on our own country. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to invest some money in these so-called green technologies, because that's the latest fad. And what I'll do is try to get the government and then give money to these green groups. They'll be my PR firms. They'll run the commercials. I'll pay them. And we'll push this policy along with the administration to talk about climate change. And so it's spread throughout the system. And there's trillions of dollars at the end of the day that are at stake ultimately, because we need energy for everything. You can't do anything in this country without. You can't grow crops. You can't raise cattle. You can't move them around. You can't pump water, heat buildings. Nothing without the energy necessary to do it. And if they can make it more expensive by forcing the government to make it, there's a lot at stake. They're going to go to the mat. We're going to watch. We're going to see some crazy stuff this year. It's an election year. You always do. And they're going to come out of the woodwork. So, hold on to your seat.
I have said on this program, Dan, ever since I've had this program on the air, that I believe that energy energy, will be the root of all evil to create the final battle of mankind, because you can't have progressive societies without energy so that those people can have jobs, build homes, raise families. And honestly, I think that these people, these liberal loons like Stiers and the rest, are creating a battle royal that is going to come in the future. Do you think I'm nuts?
No, I think you've actually, Zeb, the dictionary definition of the word energy is the capacity to do work. Now, when you look at the fact that we've got a country that has gotten to be the number one country in the world because we outproduce everybody, because we use energy to do it. You know, if it were just up to body strength, personal human strength, the Chinese would be beating us all over the place because, you know, there's more hands there than there are here. But the use of modern forms of energy that are cost effective have made it so that you amplify human strength to be able to do things that far exceed your numbers. And that's how the United States became the United States, along with, free enterprise and fear of God and all the rest of the things that it seems like we're losing. And they've focused on this because they know that ultimately, if you control the energy, you know, you're driving down the highway and the government decides to shut down your vehicle and they can do it, you're done. It doesn't matter. Your foot's not on the throttle anymore. Same with your factory. And that's why energy is so key. And the green left, these folks who, we used to call them reds, now you call them greens, that want the government to control everything because they like to be in control. They get a big kick out of telling other people, bossing other people around. That's in conflict with a lot of Americans who believe that this is a free country where citizens should have individual rights that come from God. And so if you can get in there and basically control the throttle for the entire economy, this is, they have focused on the main thing that makes the country grow. And nothing would make more sense if you're trying to take control of a modern country than to take control of its energy supplies, because that's the money and that's the power.
You know, doesn't it surprise you, Dan? I mean, you're back there in the hub of all the people that are making and wheeling and dealing in politics, etc. But doesn't it surprise you that the insidious nature of the liberal left trying to take a 7-letter word control and amplify it over the populace of the United States, doesn't it surprise you that we, the people, were not more attuned to what they're trying to do?
It's frustrating, Zeb. It's frustrating. I think somewhere down there in a lot of people's, and I know, for example, your audience and you get this, but a huge amount of Americans are tapped out. I mean, they watch entertainment. They're tapped into whatever's going on, and they can tell you about these movie stars and all the rest. But they don't really understand this. Part of it's a failure of our school system. Our government schools have not taught that the very things that our founders knew this. They knew that there were always going to be people, that there's good and evil in on earth. It's part of the breakdown. And you've got some people who want to impose their will on other people, and it's usually attempted through government. And that's why our founders said, we're going to create a system that makes it really, really hard to take the rights away from people, to impose the will of the government. We're going to put a fence around the government. Well, they've been swinging sledgehammers at those fences and those fence posts for well over 100 years. And, they've gotten weaker on all of these things. And so, no, this is how great societies have failed, by some people who are control freaks trying to grab control over everybody else so that they can be boss because they think they're smarter than everybody else. And, so all we've got is the modern version of it. It's frustrating that more people don't see it, but I think they understand something's wrong. It may just be that they may not understand the roots of it, which are with schools that don't teach, God and country the way that our founding fathers set this set this system up and expected it to work to protect those rights from what they knew was going to be a perpetual assault by control freaks trying to control Americans.
Amen. That was the best dissertation I've heard in a long time, Dan. God bless you, man. Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance. I really enjoy having him on the program. The best to you, my friend, and we'll call you soon.
Thank you, Zeb. God bless.
Take care, my friend. He tells it like it is, and that's what I like. Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance. I've got to get the weather in here. Hey, the weather is brought to you this hour by Rogge Auction. Hey, they've got a big spring community sale coming up. That's right. They're now taking consignments for that spring community sale to be held on April 9th this year. And the location for this sale will be determined in the next couple of days, and we will tell you. But consign early to get on the sale bill, whether it's farm or livestock or weapons, ammunition, ATVs, whatever. Now is the time to call and get that on the sale bill. They are not accepting household items for this spring sale. Call Ron Rogge at 431-6187 or Kate Rogge at 431-0074 or go to their website, RoggeAuction.com. And right now, here is the weather with Scotty.
Happy Tuesday morning time now for your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Scotty Cameron sitting in for Gina Jameson. Well, for today, looks like some sun. Highs are going to be around 56, just a little bit of wind. Then for tonight, 20% chance of showers after 11 o'clock. Going to see a few clouds moving in with a low around 34. Wind starting to pick up. Then for tomorrow, going to be quite breezy. We're looking for some sun. Highs around 54. The winds gusting as high as 28 miles an hour. Then for Wednesday night, partly cloudy with a low around 33. Mostly sunny on Thursday, a high near 57. That's your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Have a great day.
All right, Scotty, thank you very much. And again, don't forget Rogge Auction with their big spring community sale. Now's the time to get your consignments ready for that sale to be held on April 9th. We will tell you the destination and location of that sale in the next couple days. Call and consign early right now and go to the website, RoggeAuction.com. Okay? Got you covered. Holy moly, I also got to tell you real quick about certified pest control. Oh, now is the time, I'm telling you, to prepare to get rid of the weeds. Timing is critical for a weed-free property. Puncture vine, I hate that. Man alive. Goat heads, man, they can cause a lot of damage and pain, but you can stop them in their tracks, if you will, by getting a hold of certified pest control. The number 219-7576 or go to their website, avoidbugs.com. I'll tell you, they're just as good as the big boys at half the price. We've used certified pest control for some other items to get rid of voles and mice. Wow! Do they do the job? You call them today. 219-7576. Kevin and the crew, they are excellent with certified pest control. You call them today. Okay? And by the way, too, don't forget, we'll take some calls right now. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, give me a jingle. Want to remind you, too, about Red's Trading Post. They've got all the guns. They've got all the brand names. Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, Winchester. They've got all the ammunition. They've got all the hard-to-find powder for the reloaders. They've got all the accessories, the sights and the optics, the knives and the gun cleaning kits and the holsters, everything at their historic Old Town Twin Falls location, Bitmatong, since 1936. Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. You stop in and see them today. Okay? All right, you got that taken care of. Now give me a jingle on the landline. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, the question we were talking about, Dan Kish with energy, and then also back into Frosty's conversation, what is it? What is it that the liberals do not understand or they cannot see? When you bring people into a country like the United States of America that do not want to assimilate, they do not want to join our culture, They do not want to go underneath the rules and laws and our Constitution. You are bringing in a major problem that's going to be a growing problem. When you have liberals that absolutely think of only the 7-letter word control. Control. We've got to control these people. We've got to stop them from seeing Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred. We've got to stop them from spending money to go on a vacation or whatever. You have a society that deserves chaos. Now, I know I'll take heat for this, but I'm going to say it. We have reached a point in this country with the idiocy that's being taught in our school systems, whether it's the high school level, whether it's at the collegiate and university level. We've got to stop it. We've got millennials that are going to school to be nothing more than activists, not students, to better the world with their job and their future. They're going to school to be activists, to cause trouble. We have activists that are trying to stop energy programs which will shut down America, its jobs, and its future. And we're going to have chaos. And I, for one, think it's past time, not high time, but past time, to really start stoking the fires against these liberal loons that are denigrating and destroying our country and our culture. Maybe you don't agree, but I, for one, am going to stand up with the groups that are saying enough is enough. Got to pay another bill? Oh my goodness, I got to tell you what a treat it is to have these people back on our air. Oh my, and I'm talking about Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more in Burley. Oh, I'm honored to have them back, and we're going to be talking right now about their great big anniversary sale. And that's going to be one night only, this Thursday night, March 3rd, from 5 to 9 p.m. No money down, no interest, 12 months on approved credit. Oh, my goodness, have they got some great buys over there for you. Oh, they've got a newly expanded sleep center. They're having a Beauty Rest closeout mattress event, and they've got a home of $9.99 living room group. Oh, my goodness, check all of this out for their huge anniversary sale coming up this Thursday night, March 3rd, from 5 to 9 p.m. at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland in Burley. Don't you miss it. Going to be a dandy event. Got time for one quick call. Come on, you be that person to give me that one quick call. Give me a jingle on the landline at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We'd love to hear from you. And give you a little background what's coming up in the next hour. We have my dear buddy. He just walked in the door. That's why Ruby the dog is barking. And that's Dr. History going to be on at 10:06. I have no clue what he's going to be talking about this morning. And by the way, I want to mention our program and his segment, Dr. History, is being heard now in over 112 countries around the world on the internet system, zebbell.com. So thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. And then at 10:30 this morning, we're going to have a gentleman that's been on my program before, very knowledgeable source, Curtis Ellis. And he's going to be on the program talking about how we can't afford to give Obama any more of the keys to open the doors for the trade bills and the change of our Constitution, etc. So all that's coming up in the next hour. I want to remind you to tune in to K-Bar 1230 every day. We're on the air Monday through Thursday. And then also you can follow us if you're out of the area. Go to the website, zebbell.com, and punch the audio button, and you can listen and or watch, as we have cameras right here in the studio for the whole show. And we're going to send this back over to Wheels right now, and then we're going to prepare for Dr. History after CBS News. Have a great day. I'll be back in about 6 minutes. Oh, here we go. Good morning. Hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. And some of our great advertisers, including Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service, 734-6969. Got to remind you before we go to Dr. History about a great big bull sale, and these people have the best cattle available. Sheridan Ranch Bull Sale. Cordell and Patty Sheridan, they really have done a great job. This will be their 21st annual problem-free cattle bull sale. It's going to be this coming Saturday, starting at 1 o'clock at the Burley Livestock Auction Yard in Burley. Lunch will be provided. I understand Patty's going to head up that lunch. It's going to be delicious. And they're going to be selling 85 bulls and free delivery up to 300 miles. These are ripping good cattle, and years of really fine-tuning everything at the Sheridan Ranch for their big bull sale coming up this Saturday at 1 o'clock, Burley Livestock Sale Yard. Don't you miss it. Absolutely. Real quick, also reminding you about Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair, 635 21st Street in Heyburn on El Fresco Road. This guy can fix anything. Doug can rebuild starters, alternators, generators, fix anything from lawnmowers to choo-choo trains. You betcha. Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair. Give him a call. Make an appointment, 878-4991. Right now, it's time for Dr. History, and Dr. History is brought to you by Minnecasia Sales at 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport, with Zach and all the crews serving you with all your lumber, all your roofing, all your windows. We'll tell you more in a few minutes, but don't forget our thank yous. Go to Minnecasia Sales in Burley. And now, without further ado, here he is, heard in 112 countries, and they still have a relationship with our country, the U.S. Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing this morning?
Good, my friend. Thank you.
Good. We're going to talk about buried treasure today.
I wished I could find something.
You know, maybe when we retire, both of us, we can go start looking.
Wasn't there a guy in California or something a couple years ago that he was someplace, I can't remember if it was in Oregon or someplace, and he was walking along and found something. I can't remember if it was a old belt buckle or something, and it was worth like, I don't know how many thousands and thousands. Why can't we find something?
I don't know. We'll just have to keep looking.
Okay, what are you going to talk about?
All right, today we're going to talk about the Nemaha River treasure.
Easy for you to say.
Nemaha.
Yeah.
So anyway, it wasn't too many years ago that the Nemaha River, 2 miles north of Seneca, Kansas, made a wide bend, and then some men didn't like the way it was, so they blasted a new channel and took the bend out of the river. And today, the river does not make the bend as it once did. Instead, it runs straight north and south. In fact, the Nemaha is one of the few rivers in Kansas that flows north.
You don't mess with the river channel.
And it doesn't make sense, but it does. Anyway, so you can still see the old riverbed, but it's kind of gradually filling in as things do over the years. And a lot of the landmarks, including the huge trees that once lined the riverbanks, are gone. A lot of them were cut down for wood. Others simply died. And then, of course, man's efforts and the passing of time, it's changed the landscape considerably and has created problems for treasure hunters who still from time to time try to find the Nemaha River treasure.
Now, do you believe there is a treasure?
I think there is. As we go along here, I believe it was there. That's the question.
I've got my bags packed.
Okay. All right, we're going back to 1855. Now, according to the legend, 2 young miners returning to their homes in Massachusetts buried a powder can full of gold for safekeeping while they went into the small settlement of Richmond, Kansas territory. They went in there for supplies. But before they could dig up their fortune and continue their journey east, one was killed in a fight with 2 bad guys, and the other one fled for his life and never returned.
Are there ever any fights that killed by 2 good guys?
That's a good point. But a lot of people have tried to locate the gold, but nobody apparently has succeeded.
Really?
Apparently. Now, one of the newspapers said, over the years, a number of people have come to Seneca, some with detection equipment, but so far, as far as they know, no one has ever found anything. Now, The land now belongs to a guy by the name of Wimp, and he owns the land even today. And Wimp, W-E.
Yeah, like good old Wimp.
Wimp. He said, here's what he said: I've never put much stock in that legend. Many times folks have looked for the treasure but found nothing. I believe it's just somebody's wild hair idea. I can't believe anything else. It's just a legend, and that's what he says, but people still come and trample over his land and have done for 70 or 80 or 90 years.
How did they narrow it down that it was on his land, maybe?
Well, I'll give you some hints as we go along here. That'll give you some idea.
Right.
But the attitude of most people is that the treasure is there, or was there, and somebody may have found it. And as we've talked about treasure before, sometimes when people find a treasure, they don't tell anybody.
Well, would you?
Because somebody's going to be wanting it, probably the ancestors of these two young men.
Or the IRS.
Yes. So the story really begins in 1849. Okay, that year, gold was discovered in California, and among the early 49ers who headed west to make their fortune were two young men, both 23 years old, and they were from Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just who they were is unknown. We don't have any names, actually. For nearly 5 years, they panned for gold, and gradually their patience was rewarded. They accumulated a fortune in gold. But talk of going home and memories of loved ones in the East kind of made them a little homesick. So in the spring of 1855, they decided they'd had enough gold, and they prepared to return home.
Really?
So is this a good time for a break, Zeb?
You know, it might not be a bad time. If you don't mind, I will jump in here and say thank you very much to our friends at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Zach and the whole crew. By the way, if you're one of the fortunate ones to get some money back on your tax returns, why don't you remodel your house? Why don't you check out all the lumber packages? Maybe you need to fix the roof on your dwelling or put some really good upgrade to your windows with the Western windows. And carpet, oh my, have they got good quality carpet. Stop in, pick and choose. You're going to find just what you want. Zach and the folks at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Number to call, 878-2091. And they're very proud to bring you Dr. History and the stories of the lost gold.
All right, so here we have two young 23-year-old men have their fortune. They're heading back home to Boston because they're homesick. So they bought a wagon, team, supplies, and the two young men actually joined a caravan of freighters for Protection and Company and slowly began the 2,000-mile journey east. Now, from California to Julesburg is in what is today northeastern Colorado. The journey was calm except for a few scares from Indians and delays caused by huge herds of buffalo crossing the trail. Mm-hmm. And by the time the wagon train pulled into Julesburg, the young men, they were kind of anxious. They wanted to get home. So they didn't like the gambling and the drinking that was going on, and they began to get a little suspicious about two bad guys.
Two bad guys.
Yeah. Hard drinkers, pretty handy with their guns, and it appeared that these two guys suspected the two young men were carrying gold.
Uh-oh.
So suspicion. So it was then that the two young men decided to go it alone the next 500 miles to the Missouri River.
Oh, wait a minute. That's not the brightest thing they could have ever done.
I agree, but they thought, okay, we're getting out of here. So with the wagon loaded lightly, they quietly left Julesburg without telling anybody.
Uh-huh.
Not too many days later, they reached the settlement of Richmond, which is on the west bank of the Nemaha River. Nemaha. Now, in 1855, Richmond was only a few months old. It was the trading center for the area. Consisted really only of a dozen shacks. Most of them were eating houses, saloons, gambling. But one was a combination store, saloon, and gambling hall. So, late on a Saturday afternoon, when the two young men in their wagon passed through Richmond, they forded the Nemaha River and set up camp on the east bank. Now, as soon as it was dark, they decided that they should bury their powder can full of gold.
I see, yeah.
So they buried it.
Okay.
They didn't want to leave the gold unguarded in the wagon while they went into town for supplies. I mean, that makes sense. So, according to the legend, they selected a site, now here's the quote, across from a big tree, which might have been an oak, elm, or cottonwood.
Oh, that really narrowed it down, didn't it, Doc?
You know, that's right. You know exactly where
Drive right to it.
Right there. So the tree was on the west bank. They were on the east bank. Now, here's another quote. In direct line with the rays of light shining from the window of the saloon saloon to the place on the east bank where they buried their gold.
Okay, now, there might be a question of, A, the window might be broken, and B, the bar might be gone the next time you get there.
Or the tree.
Bingo.
So, anyway, but they didn't figure they'd be more than just overnight.
These two kids really weren't the brightest students in the school, were they?
You look at that now and think, no.
Yeah.
But anyway, so once their treasure was covered with dirt and branches, they forded the river, walked a short distance into Richmond's only store to replenish their supplies. Well, they made their purchases and were about to leave when two men emerged from the store's back room where the saloon and gambling hall was located. Guess who these guys were?
They were the bad dudes.
Same two bad guys that the young prospectors had fled from at Julesburg, and they'd been drinking, and anyway, when they saw the young men, they tried to stop them from leaving. Well, they got into a big fight, the gun flashed, the shot reverberating inside the small frame building like a clap of thunder. One of the young men from Massachusetts fell to the floor, dead.
Uh-oh.
Well, what happened next is a little unclear, but the lights in the store went out. Okay. The surviving young man fled, of course. He made his way to his team and wagon, hitched them up, fled east, leaving the gold buried in the ground.
Now, wait a minute. He had time for all that?
To just, hook up the team and head out.
Oh, my.
Now, the bad guys, I guess, didn't know where they were camped. I don't know. Anyway, so by noon, 2 days later, he'd reached St. Joseph, Missouri. And why he didn't get help and return to Richmond, we don't know. I mean,
why didn't he run to the sheriff's office?
Yeah, and maybe Richmond was so small it didn't have. It was just say, a few shacks. So I'm guessing it probably didn't even have a sheriff. But anyway, it may have been that he felt his life was more important than the gold. Regardless, he returned to Massachusetts. Well, the years passed quickly. He married his dead partner's sister, but for some unknown reason, he kept putting off his return to Kansas to reclaim the gold. So now the Civil War breaks out.
Oh, boy.
Okay, he answered the call. He enlisted. Before saying goodbye to his wife and two baby sons, he drew a map showing the location of the buried gold. He said, should he not return, he told her his wife and his sons could go get the gold.
Yeah, just
simple enough.
Piece of cake.
Yeah. Well, he did not return. The man died in battle, and his widow reared and educated his two sons. Well, the years moved slowly. She made no effort to go after the gold. But in 1883, the sons, now grown men, set out for Kansas with their father's map to find the treasure.
Now, these are the two sons
of the one partner.
All right.
So with the help of old settlers, they located the site of Old Richmond, which is about 2 miles north of Seneca, and Abandoned Well was the only visible landmark. So this town is gone.
It's gone.
There's nothing left.
The window that the sun was shining off
is
of
not there.
Gone.
So the timber had been cleared off, and the land on both sides of the river was in cultivation.
See, the
tree is gone.
The tree's gone.
The town is gone. So with bayonets, they prodded the ground, trying to locate the powder can. They spent several weeks going over every foot of the ground where they thought the gold was buried, but they did not locate it. Tired, discouraged, with their hands blistered, they gave up and returned home. Now, you might think the story ends there, but it does not.
I did.
You did. 22 years later, 1905, there's a guy by the name of Ripey. Okay? Ripey.
Okay.
Mr. Ripey told a story how he and his wife had made their wedding trip with a train of freight wagons, camping over Sunday at a ford on the Nemaha River near a place called Richmond.
Uh-oh, the plot thickens.
Ripey and his wife had been camped beside the Nemaha River across from Richmond the night one of the two young men who had been killed at the store.
Really?
Now, Ripey had met the two young men earlier in the day when they were sitting up their camp, and years later he had located the two sons of the lone survivor and had learned of their fruitless search for the lost treasure. So, Ripey, after the sons failed to find the gold, their mother had sold the map to him, provided that they would get his share of the treasure should he find it. Now, by now, is 60 years later.
Oh, boy.
Okay? So the land has changed. It's totally different.
Yeah.
So anyway, he located the ford where they thought that they had crossed the river. They thought they'd found the camping site where he and his wife had stayed, which was near where the two young men had stayed.
Okay.
But they didn't find anything. So Ripey left town the next day, only returned again a few weeks later. He searched again without finding the gold. But the vanishing of Richmond, the removal of timber, along with floods. I mean, every year, the water's going to be maybe high. It would change.
Really?
Even the flow of the river. So anyway, it was just kind of a complete loss. They couldn't recognize any of the landmarks that were on the map. So anyway, Mr. Ripey planned to return at some future time. Well, as luck would have it, he died too, so now he's dead.
Holy smokes, everybody's leaving this story.
Yeah, so now here we are in 1938.
Oh my goodness.
So not quite 100 years. So, a lot of attempts have been made to find the treasure, but all have apparently been unsuccessful. And again, as I mentioned, maybe somebody did find it and just didn't say anything. But, if it was just gold in a can, Wells Fargo couldn't go after it, or, because a lot of that gold came back just like it did, just, in a can or whatever.
Yeah, did the bad guys ever face the charges?
Not that we know of.
I see.
They probably headed out. But so 1955, the guy that owns the land, his name is Wimp.
Back to Wimp.
Back to him, where the gold supposedly was buried, said he had found a freshly dug hole near the river.
Uh-oh.
He speculated that somebody had found the gold. But a lot of people think that Wimp made up this story to discourage treasure seekers from trespassing and digging his land up. He didn't like people coming there. And
an ulterior motive.
All these years, people are going there digging up his ground.
Yeah, I mean, would you like it?
No. So the only gold known to have been found in Nemaha County was located actually in 1917. Now, this is kind of an interesting how this gold was found.
Okay.
2 gold nuggets were discovered in the craws of ducks being cleaned for eating.
You're kidding.
Okay.
So then everybody started shooting all the ducks.
Well, one nugget weighed 2.5 grains, and I'm not sure how much that is. And the other duck had another gold nugget inside of him.
Those were bad luck ducks.
But here's the key. Both ducks came from a farm where the birds had roamed beside nearby creek named Harris Creek.
Uh-oh.
So it's doubtful that the gold found in the ducks was from the buried can.
I see.
But it is possible that the gold nuggets were lost in the creek during the 1860s when a prospector drowned. He was returning east from the gold camps, just like the other boys were.
Yeah.
But he was trying to cross this creek and he drowned.
Yeah.
So he probably had gold nuggets on his person somehow.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
So anyway, the possibility exists that someone found the buried gold many years ago, never reported it, and there's always the possibility that it doesn't even exist. But we would like to think it is.
Let me ask you, was it gold coin or gold dust that the original buriers of the gold?
Okay, I'm going to say that it was probably gold dust or maybe even some nuggets. Because
I see. I thought it was gold coin that you were talking about.
No, because they mined it themselves.
I see.
So they were in California during 1849 to 1855, and that's when they were panning and doing all the things to get gold. So I don't think they would have had it minted into actual coins.
But this story is quite a bit similar to other stories of lost treasure or buried treasure. I can't remember the exact chapter and verse that you had on the program one time, but you said that there had been a bank robbery, I believe, and the outlaws, 3 of them, I believe you said on one program, were actually over here by Raft River someplace.
Right. They were over in the Pocatello area.
Yeah.
They'd robbed, there was 2 of them.
Yeah.
They'd robbed the Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
One of the guys was shot and killed. The other guy was shot, but he made his way to the City of Rocks.
Right, that's it. Yeah.
And he stumbled into a camp. He told the guy in the camp that he had buried the treasure south of and inside of the Twin Sisters in the City of Rocks.
Right.
And then he died.
Yeah, oh dear.
And so this guy that he stumbled into the camp, he looked and looked and looked. He never could find it.
So it still might be up there.
Yeah. Now, in 1974, they did find some saddlebags with gold in them.
Really?
Yeah.
Whereabouts was that?
In the City of Rocks.
In the City of Rocks.
But they determined that was from a different robbery.
I see.
So it was just right close to here. There could be some gold up there.
So
in the City of Rocks.
there is gold in them thar hills.
Yeah. Well, now another little story. A guy from out to Raft River came into Burley or Albion, up to this area, and got to drinking and told how he discovered a huge gold vein. And a day or two later, he headed back out to Raft River. A couple of guys followed him.
Oh, boy.
And nobody heard of any of them since.
Really?
So there could be who knows? Out there, not too far from us.
Yeah, loose lips sink gold mines.
They do. Do not tell anybody if you've got gold.
Why in the world would these people in the Old West, and I got to hurry along here, but why would they go into town and they'd always be bragging about what they found on their claim, or go into the bar and get all liquored up and start bragging about all the money they've made? Now, just keep your doggone mouth shut.
Well, and some guys would just quietly go into town but buy a new horse, a new saddle, a new hat, and people are looking, okay, this guy's buying a lot of stuff, and then a few days later he'd disappear. Well, pretty soon people caught on and they would follow him.
Yeah.
And
you're better off just traipsing 100 miles to go to some other place where they don't know you.
Right, and don't go buy a new gun or a new horse or a new saddle.
We'd have been better prospectors than they were.
We would have.
Oh, my goodness. So what you're saying in kind of a general form is that if you and I, now that we're old fogies, wanted to get an old burro and a pick and a shovel, maybe we could strike it rich.
There are still people out there right now in our own day that are up in the mountains that will pan for gold.
Isn't there a lot of people that still go down in Arizona, the Lost Dutchman?
The Lost Dutchman?
Yeah.
But even here in Idaho,
really,
there's people they have claims, legal claims, and they can go in there and pan for gold or whatever.
Have you ever done that?
I have panned, but I'm not very patient.
You got to really swish that around.
Oh yeah, you got to swish it around, and I have tried it.
Really? You're not a good swisher?
I'm not a good swisher.
Okay.
In fact, let me just tell you real quick: if anybody ever goes up to Virginia City, Nevada City, Montana, there are people there that will let you pan for gold.
Really?
And experiment and try it. Yeah.
And you can keep what you pan?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. Just little tiny flakes.
Pick me up next Tuesday.
Okay.
All right. Dr. History brought to you by Minnecasia Sales. 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport with Zach and the whole crew. They have your lumber. They have your windows. They have the best in carpet. They have what you're looking for at Minnecasia Sales. Call them 878-2091. Thank you, Doc.
You bet. You have a good day.
Don't leave right away. I got to visit with you for a quick second. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Dr. History for today. But before we send it back over to our main studios, I want to remind you about Thursday. We have a segment called Cassia County School Days. And, of course, we have some great sponsors. Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 677-8888 for all your outpatient surgeries. And they can save you money. Call them today, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center. And a Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. My goodness, they've got all the spring clothing there. Spring is right around the corner. Peek, you'll see it. There it is. And don't forget everything for birthday presents and all the games and the toys. Everything at a Child's World. 1308 Overland in Burley, along with Ambulatory Surgery Center, bringing you school days in Cassia County. Real quick, I also want to remind you about Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. They're having a great big anniversary sale. My goodness, this is a ripping good time. One night only. One night only. I know Dr. History's put it on his calendar. It's going to be this Thursday night, March 3rd from 5 to 9 p.m. No money down, no interest on approved credit, 12 months. Oh, my goodness, and they've got the $9.99 living room groups. You got to get in there and check that out. They've got great specials on everything like dining, all dining room bar stools and dinettes. You can save up to 50%. And they've got a newly expanded sleep center. You got to check it all out at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Stop in this week at 459 Overland in Burley for the big anniversary sale. We're going to take a break and come back in just a few moments with more Zeb at the Ranch.
Now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
I love that Dr. History segment every Tuesday on our program. Thank you, Doc. Great job. And by the way, too, I also want to mention that yesterday we stopped in and talked to Kyle for just a few moments at Urgent Care of Twin Falls. In Twin Falls at 2392 Addison Avenue East. They had their great big grand opening yesterday. Oh, my goodness sakes, it's easy to find right there on Addison, right by Kmart and Harley-Davidson, and the number to call, 933-4440. You've got problems with your health, whether it might be laceration repair requiring stitches, broken bones, flu, cough, pains and strains. Well, walk right in. No appointments necessary, quicker, less expensive, and a better option for minor emergencies with Major Care. Urgent Care of Twin Falls, 2392 Addison Avenue East. You be sure and stop in and see them today. Right now, let's go to the phone lines. I always enjoy this man. He is the United Nations correspondent for WorldNet Daily and the executive director of the American Jobs Alliance. Good morning, Curtis Ellis. How are you?
I'm real good. How are you, Zeb?
Not too bad, sir, but I'm very, very concerned about the remaining 323 days of the Obama administration. I'm scared to death that Hillary might get in as president. Please ease my fears, my friend.
Well, look, we're hearing, rightfully so, the Senate leadership saying we should not let this president reshape the future of this country by packing the Supreme Court with his liberal judges. We can't let him do that. We're going to have a new president in just a few months. He's on the way out the door. Why should we let him reshape our future that way? But at the same time, we've got these same GOP leaders like Mitch McConnell in the Senate saying, well, we want to pass this Obama trade Trans-Pacific Partnership deal, lame duck session. We're going to let the president reshape the future of our country and reshape our country through a trade deal, even though he's about to be replaced by somebody else. It just, and we can see that Obama is just itching to get as much done and much of his agenda as possible before he leaves. That's why he wants to appoint somebody, a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court, and that's why he wants this trade deal, which is going to create a Pacific Commission that's going to override our sovereignty. It's going to lay down the rules for our domestic economy as well as international trade. It's just not right. He's trying to get as much shoved through as possible.
Well, Curtis, let me ask you this. Let's break this down a little bit. I was at some of the events over the last couple of months that involved some of our politicians, and it amazed me that there are politicians on both sides of the aisle that are advocating this TPP trade deal, and they really don't understand it. They don't understand the negativity against America and job loss, etc. These people are supposed to be representing us, and they have no clue what's really going on.
Well, that's really, and that's exactly what's fueling this uprising for Donald Trump. He is foursquare against it. He has said so clearly, loudly, repeatedly. Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama, he has said the only way to kill this thing is to elect Donald Trump. And then we have these mealy-mouthed senators. But number one is Marco Rubio, who has said in his campaign platform that the Trans-Pacific Partnership is a central pillar of his plan for America. Now that he's taken some heat over it, he's saying, well, I don't know how I'm going to vote on it. Well, all he doesn't know is when he's going to tell us he's for it again. He knows exactly how he's going to vote on it. Then we got some other senators out there. There's Senator Johnson, Republican Senator Johnson up in Wisconsin, and I was talking to some other members that, well, I haven't decided how I'm going to vote on it yet. I haven't read it yet. Well, it's been out there now since November. It's been out there. There's plenty of time to read it, plenty of time to understand. There's all kinds of people like Senator Sessions and others who will explain it to you if you don't have time to sit down and read this thing. It can tell you exactly why this is bad. Really, there's a very short reason why it's bad if you need the Cliff Notes version. Obama negotiated it, okay? How good can it be?
You know, Curtis, you are very well aware of what's going on with these various trade bills and also what's going on with the Supreme Court now. Let me go back to the Supreme Court just for a moment with the appointment by possibly Obama. The Republicans, they said they're going to show some spine and that they're not going to pass on Obama's nominee. However, let me ask you this. Do you think that during the recess of the Senate and the House that Obama might try to slip this in the dead of night at about 10 o'clock at night some night Eastern time when they're out of town and use his executive powers to appoint that person to the Supreme Court? Am I wrong?
You are not wrong. President Eisenhower did the same thing. He made recess appointments to the Supreme Court. Now, unless Mitch McConnell is smart enough and diligent and vigilant enough to always call the Senate into session, which he can do, they can gavel in, gavel out, and it's technically in session, that would prevent a recess appointment. But here's the other thing I'm scared of, Zeb, is look, Mitch McConnell has said he's going to drop Donald Trump like a hot rock. The establishment folks are running away from Trump. They're scared to death of this guy. At some point, it may get into their pretty little head that they're going to lose the Senate. The odds are against the Republicans retaining control of the Senate, no matter who wins the White House. The odds are just against that happening. They're going to be taking polls on a daily basis. At some point, it may strike them, we're going to lose the Senate, and it looks like we might not win the White House either. Maybe we ought to approve Obama's appointment to the Supreme Court because we're not going to be here next year, and it's going to be a worse appointment. So we'll just go ahead and give this guy what he wants.
You know, Curtis, give this guy what he wants. I mean, he's sold us down the river with our national security, our economy. We're going to be $21 trillion in debt before too long. This man, I've come right out and said, will go down in history as the worst president ever for 2 terms in the United States history. But then my question to you, my dear friend, how? How come the American public is gullible enough to even think for a split second of putting Hillary in, which would be a 3rd term of Obama's policies?
Well, really, how? This gets back, it's a real good question. How can people be so gullible? Well, I'll tell you what, there's a dirty little secret among political consultants, the people who engineer the elections and try to engineer public opinion. They want voter participation to be as low as possible because it is much easier to manipulate a smaller group of people. So you'll notice that in the Republican primaries, it's record-breaking turnout, record-breaking participation. People who never voted before are coming out to vote. They're voting for a man named Trump. But on the Democratic side of the aisle, the voter participation is low. Even with all of these huge crowds you're hearing about Bernie Sanders bringing people out, the number of people participating and actually going out to vote is at an all-time low. I predict that if Hillary is the nominee, and unless she's indicted or something, she likely will be. If she's the nominee, and if the Republican establishment succeeds in stealing the nomination from Donald Trump, because there's all kinds of insider slimy tricks they can do to accomplish that, you will see a record low turnout. All the people who are energized by the thought of Trump blowing up the establishment, they will not come out to vote. They won't vote for a Mitt Romney or a Marco Roboto Rubio or whatever kind of shill the establishment shoves onto the electorate. They just won't. They'll have none of it. They'll stay home, and you will have a minority of the minority of people voting for Hillary Clinton, and it'll be mostly people who are getting free stuff from the government.
Absolutely.
More of it.
Absolutely. You know, Curtis, in the time remaining, I'd like you to talk a little bit about our Constitution and how Obama and many of his henchmen and people that are around him, they treat the Constitution as a living document that can be changed for their whims and reasons. My biggest fear right now, and tell me I'm wrong, is that somebody's going to implement the Constitutional Convention philosophy, and there goes the First Amendment, there goes the Second Amendment, and there goes the best document by any country, our United States Constitution. What are your thoughts?
Well, they've been doing this. It's like a salami slice, you know. They've been slicing the salami. They take off a little bit at a time, little bit at a time, little bit at a time. We are so far down the rabbit hole into post-constitutional government already, it is truly frightening. That is something we should be frightened of, Deb. You've got all these executive orders where the president feels he does not need congressional approval to do this, to do that, to change the immigration law, to change the air quality laws, to institute cap and trade, whatever it is. He feels he can just do an executive order on it, to listen in on our phones, to listen in on read our emails. These are things that can just be done without congressional approval. Then you've got the Supreme Court justices who feel they can reinterpret the Constitution. Constitution is no longer that, whatever it is, 5-page document with the amendments. If you want to read what the Constitution is, you've got to have a whole library full of law books that are filled up with all the Supreme Court rulings going back to 1789 because they're constantly reinterpreting it. And then with this Obama trade deal, this Trans-Pacific Partnership, that's going to establish another living agreement that will be interpreted not even by the Supreme Court, not even by Congress. It's going to be constantly reinterpreted and changed by a bunch of foreign bureaucrats, foreign nationals sitting over in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, or somewhere like that. It says it. It says it right in the text of the agreement. It's a living agreement, a living document that can be updated and changed by this commission, this Trans-Pacific Partnership Commission, that's going to reinterpret it and change it as needed. That's just crazy. And there are changes. There's no room for Congress to even weigh in. But we are getting so close to where the Constitution is. It's something like a museum piece that is to be looked at but not read and certainly not obeyed. It's truly amazing.
When you look at the scope of the problems in this country, I mean, we've got the young millennials that have never had a job, never raised a family, never had to worry about meeting the next paycheck to their employees, and yet they're going to these colleges and the universities as activists, and they're absolutely condemning the American way of life, condemning energy programs in this country, condemning anybody that wants to go out and be successful. Really, Curtis, with your studies, how optimistic are you that this next election may have some hope in changing what's happening?
I really do believe that this election is the most important ever, because for the exact reason you say, we've got this next generation, these millennials and beyond, I don't even know what you call them, that they've never held a job, they've never raised a family. These are the people who, by the way, staff Capitol Hill. You find that whole city is run by these young people who were first in their class, and then they go right to work for a congressman, senator. They're writing the laws. They're telling these guys how to vote. And then if they're not in Washington doing that, they're being activists. And they come from the safe spaces of a university. They have no respect for the First Amendment, no idea of the contest of differing ideas. They want to be protected from hate speech. They want to be protected from microaggressions. If you make a joke about two guys walk into a bar, you're a racist and a sexist, and whatever the third person is, you're an anti-thatist. And we're getting so far down this road where there is no free speech, where there is no stand up for your own. Look at, and then you've got the Obama wants to, and he's backed by all the think tanks in Washington, give us all wage insurance, where we're no longer working on our own. We're no longer dependent on our own wits and skills to make a living. Everybody's getting a check from the government, guaranteeing our income. I mean, it is really profound, and we better change direction 180 degrees, and we need somebody in the White House who's going to do that. Otherwise, we just may be way too far down the road to ever pull ourselves back.
Amen. I always look forward, like I said earlier, to having this gentleman on my program, United Nations correspondent for WorldNet Daily and the executive director of American Jobs Alliance, a dear friend of this program, very interesting, Curtis Ellis. Thank you for being on the show, and know that I'll call you back soon.
It's always a pleasure, Zeb. Have a great day.
And, sir, same to you. Thank you very much. Great insight from a gentleman that I really enjoy having on my program. And literally, don't give Obama the keys to the Supreme Court or our economy. I'm afraid. I really am. I'm not trying to be theatrical whatsoever. I am so afraid for what might happen and what is happening day by day with this administration, Obama, and the maybe that Hillary will become the next president. I am very fearful when I look at their policies, I look at their philosophy, I look at their ideology. Nothing that they believe in or stand for really goes for the Constitution of our United States of America. I am very afraid. Time for our weather forecast, and then I'd love to have some calls come in from you folks. You've been such a great audience this morning with all your comments. Give me a jingle. While I'm waiting for your call, we're going to have the weather, and the weather's brought to you by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. And by the way, it's tax return meat bundle time. You can purchase 70-plus pounds of beef, pork, and chicken for only $249 plus tax at Scarro's Meats. And it is delicious. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Caller, stand by. I'll get to you right after the weather. Here's Scotty with our weather for this hour.
Happy Tuesday morning time now for your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Scotty Cameron sitting in for Gina Jameson. Well, for today, looks like some sun. Highs are going to be around 56, just a little bit of wind. Then for tonight, 20% chance of showers after 11 o'clock. Going to see a few clouds moving in with a low around 34. Wind starting to pick up. Then for tomorrow, going to be quite breezy. Looking for some sun. Highs around 54. The winds gusting as high as 28 miles an hour. Then for Wednesday night, partly cloudy with a low around 33. Mostly sunny on Thursday, a high near 57. That's your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Have a great day.
All right, Scott, thank you. Hey, Wheels, turn it up a little bit because it's all of a sudden in the last half hour with Curtis Ellis, it went down in my headset. So give me a little bit more sound if you can. And our thanks to Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Call them at 324-7657. Caller, thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, I can't hear you, so I'll just make my statement and then I'll hang up and listen. Last night during the night I was listening to a talk show, and the guest on there was saying that they are now reinvestigating or relooking at the evidence from the Foster killing with the Clintons involved. That there possibly will be something more come of that too, because actually the man couldn't commit suicide by shooting himself twice. And I'll hang up and answer. Thank you.
I know that lady that just called, and I feel very unfortunate that she couldn't hear my end of the conversation. I apologize for that. She's a very, very astute lady that understands politics and what's going on in the news. I had heard that same rumor about that Foster shooting and so-called suicide, and I'm going to try to do a segment on that this next week on the program. There is, when you look at the Clinton family, you look at Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and forget all about the poor daughter. I mean, my goodness sake, she's probably ready to step behind any curtain to get out of eyesight or hear anything she has to say because she doesn't want to be a part of this mess with her mother and dad. But there are so many allegations. There are so many innuendos. There are so many stories of crime-connected activity to Bill and Hillary Clinton, and I'm just absolutely shocked, and I mean this, that there are people, and unfortunately they are in large numbers in this country, that are so supportive of Hillary becoming the President of the United States with a background of a mafioso. Why? And I am absolutely certain, with some of the contacts that I have back in Washington, D.C., that are involved in various think tanks and they gather information about what's going on in politics, I am almost certain that there is going to be so much more that's going to be laid open for us to know about and hear about. There is no way Hillary should even have her name up for nomination as to be possible president. My goodness, the absolute outrage against her should be nationwide and literally almost worldwide for being a crook, a phony, a fraud, and a liar. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And that's not to say, and I want to be a little fair and balanced here, that's not to say that there isn't a similar or comparable viewpoint that can be said about a lot of the people on the right. Politics needs to be cleaned up. Who we have representing us needs to be cleaned up, straightened up, and they need to be warned. Enough is enough. Clean up your act, or you're out of here. I want to remind you about all the great tire buys for your spring and summer driving. Yeah, I'm going to talk about spring and summer right now. I am, because you got to be prepared. And they've got some great buys, like on the Eclipse tire for your car. Yes, sir, all-season traction, advanced design tread, and you can get it. It's on sale right now for $64.99. Oh, my goodness. Check that tire out today. And check out all the custom wheels to dress up your four-wheeled wonder. And check out, of course, the best in brake service. These folks really know brakes. And, of course, they've got the best in batteries, too. You turn the key, you want it to start, it will, with your batteries from Les Schwab. You stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Let's take a little look at our lineup for tomorrow. Oh, my goodness sakes, have we got some home runs. First of all, in the first hour at 8:06, we're going to have that open forum. We're going to welcome all your calls, all your questions, and everything else. Then at 9:06, we've got Indianapolis, Indiana. Dave Bigo going to be on. At 9:30, we're going to have a woman on talking about taxes. She's got a brand new book out about how you should absolutely try to deduct anything and everything you can. Eva Rosenberg is going to be on the program tomorrow. And then at 10:06, all the way up until 11 tomorrow, we're going to have members of the Cassia County School Board on the air answering your questions about the upcoming bond election. And I honestly want you to call in and ask questions. Everybody try to be polite. Let's try to make this a very optimistic show and get your questions answered, etc. That's going to be on from 10 to 11 tomorrow, so don't forget that. On March 2nd. Wow, the calendar is flying by. I want to remind you, too, that, let's see, what was that other deal I was going to talk about? We're going to have on Thursday, we're going to be talking to people like the Chamber of Commerce, we've got Dog Nation, and we're starting a new segment with Urgent Care of Twin Falls, talking about how their new Urgent Care of Twin Falls can better serve you. So tune into that at about 9:12 on Thursday. Got it all figured out. Now we're going to say have a great day. Whether you're doing something special or you're just going to find a lawn chair and enjoy God's beautiful world, whatever, have a great day and leave the dial right here on KBAR 1230 or streaming live on the net, zebbell.com. We'll be back again tomorrow morning at 8:06. And don't forget that the way things were are the way things ought to be. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a great day and God bless.